minute, Jack. This is a friendly celebration.
I don't much like the way you celebrate.
In the Senate, I think we could hopefully get some over there. So that historically, I can't, a lot of people have asked me, well, would the South have won if Lincoln didn't suspend habeas corpus? I just think, look, and I'm a big fan of Lincoln, but, once you say he was okay doing that, you've opened the floodgates. I mean, Lincoln could have called an emergency session of Congress, which he did on July 4th, 1861. And I think that's the worst speech he ever gave, because he was trying to justify, if any of our listeners want to go read Lincoln's worst speech, it was July 4th, 1861, where he tried to justify some unconstitutional actions he had taken in front of Congress. And he could have instead said, Congress, I need you to grant me these powers that I've taken upon myself. And he didn't. He did some, but he waited on habeas corpus. So I'm not willing to cede that, because as soon as you do, we give the power to Trump, which in one way would be really good. But in another way, do you want the Democrats having that type of power to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to anybody that went in on January 6th? I mean, it was bad enough as it is.
We just got to keep them out of the White House.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of my little rant there. Sorry, guys.
So no, that's good, Jeff. That's great. I don't think Ken was on yet, and I'm not sure Zack was on or not, but I was talking about, I sent an email out. I found this state of Mississippi versus the United States government when Congress passed the what do they call it? The Reconstruction Act. Yeah, the Reconstruction Act in 1866. Okay. The state of Mississippi sued the federal government, saying that the president could not enforce that congressional law because it was unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court ruled against that and said he absolutely has the power to do that. And why doesn't that Supreme Court decision take more precedence in a lot of the stuff that's going on in today's, in the fight that's going on today in the courts? I mean, it seems to me you could go back and say, well, look at 1860, the Supreme Court's already ruled on it. The president absolutely has the authority to enact congressional law, and that's what he's doing in immigration law. Okay.
Right.
So I don't understand why that doesn't hold any weight. Maybe it does. I don't know. I've never heard anybody talk about it. Yeah. Maybe I need to go be a Trump attorney.
Well, Don, if I think of it, I'll try to send you this 80-page academic study on due process for illegals.
Okay.
And the changes and all the, because it is wide and vast. And quite frankly, that's really why everybody's stuck in the headlights right now.
Yeah.
Because you can argue from what I read, okay, and it is just amazing. From what you read, you can go anywhere from cases that have been settled that there is no due process, all the way up to, there's due process and appeals and, all sorts of things that can happen. And so that's why, and there's court cases. I mean, it's 80 pages of lower court to Supreme Court rulings, and they are not congruent with each other.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they're not. And obviously Congress gave the immigration courts the authority to handle immigration cases, and any judge that's not in an immigration court shouldn't even be involved in the process at all. You agree with that, Zack?
Yes, that's what I was trained. That the illegal alien, there's two things that I think make the illegal alien different. The moment they are in the United States illegally, it is a continuing violation. It doesn't stop at the border. It doesn't stop after they've been here 1 year or 20 years.
Right.
It always exists.
It's always on their head.
Right. It's and it is a fresh case once it's been discovered and action taken on it.
And that is
Now,
true. Let me comment, Zach, though, but for some reason, the courts have got in. It's almost like Roe versus Wade, how the court tried to say, weigh in on things this many weeks and this kind of thing. Depending on what, I'm not saying I've read them all, but I've read enough to show that the courts have basically come down and said, look, if you've been in here in the States over 2 years, I've read some of these cases, then you're considered to be propertied, quote unquote, or vested. And so the due process is supposed to be more than it is if you are here under 2 years. And that used to be 2 weeks, so something, and I'm not saying that's the final court ruling. I'm just saying that I've read that,
Yeah.
so it's.
Is vested, though, is vested really in the immigration law, Zach? Is there such a thing as being vested?
Or propertied.
Or property?
never heard of it. I do know that there is a case called suspension of deportation. And the baseline for that is 20 years of continuous physical presence. And it is very, very difficult for an alien who's been here illegally for 20 years to prove that he has been here continuously for those 20 years. However, what happens when you catch, especially now, aliens that are not from Mexico or Canada, which are considered contiguous territory, are called OTMs, other than Mexicans. When you apprehend one of those people, you either arrest them or locate them. If you don't take them into custody, it's a location. If it deemed that they're likely to abscond, you take them into custody and you start their due process at the time that you process them on an I-213. You then read them and provide them a copy of an I-274, which outlines their rights under the Immigration and Nationality Act. They have two basic choices: to agree to turn voluntarily to their country of origin or citizenship, or request a hearing before an immigration judge. Once they've had the hearing before the immigration judge, if they don't like his decision, they can appeal his decision to the Board of Immigration Appeals. Whatever they say is final as far as an illegal alien goes. Now, I have no idea if there's anything beyond that as far as due process that the Immigration Service at that time was bound to provide the alien.
Well, that's it.
But appearing in front of a judge is habeas corpus.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, that.
Well, what is established at the time of the initial hearing before the immigration judge, pending an appeal, is are they likely to abscond?
Right. And if from the stuff I've read, Zach, I don't know if this is true, but they're saying, anywhere between 3 months and 2 years sometimes it takes to get through this process. And the problem we have, I kind of use the example of an hourglass, except the hourglass now is it's not an hour, it's a year or longer. You have all this sand in the glass, but we haven't expanded the nozzle. So with the millions and millions of illegals in the country, with our current staffing in the immigration courts, you're not going to be able to process these people in 20 years. And so, you either need to expand the nozzle, and my recommendation is take all the money we were going to give the IRS and put it over to immigration and naturalization, and then hire that many more immigration judges, which all don't have to be attorneys. You've got judges in Tucson, pro tem, this, that, and the other. They need to understand the law, and to flood the system with those judges and let's get it done. Let's accelerate. Because right now, what's happening is, unless you suspended the writ of habeas corpus, it's going to take, you just do the math.
Yeah, that's Trump's argument right now.
Just do the math. You can't get it done.
No, you don't have time. That's exactly what Trump is arguing right now, and his attorneys, right? You can't have a trial for every one of these people. It's impossible.
There is a process that I don't know when it became a rule. Now, understand that what works within the immigration courts is different than what happens in Congress. Congress can say, okay, you can do this, and then the Immigration Service comes up with the process. Right. And it's called expedited removal. And if it falls within the confines of what Congress envisioned, because they know nothing about removing aliens.
Right.
So they leave it up to the people that do. Say, okay, expedited removal, we've got this one guy. The ideal is 72 hours from the time he's arrested till he's on the plane or the ship going back to his country. Doesn't always turn out to be 72 hours, especially if it happens on a weekend. So exactly how expedited removal works, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure from what I've heard about it, that it was devised to attack this long wait between the appeal to the BIA and the hearing.
And Zack also, but I think this is kind of important to understand too. Congress has all powers under the naturalization clause in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. And according to some of the Supreme Court decisions I have read, they even can, yes, even with the 5th and 14th Amendment due process clause, they can determine what the due process is that illegals have. So that's another way, if they want to lower the standard of what due process is, and this is a battle. This is going to be a battle between the court and the legislative branch. But there are cases out there that Congress does have the authority to dictate what is due process, because they hold the power of immigration and naturalization. So that's why I'm saying I just think Congress is lagging President Trump, and they need to get on the ball. I know they're trying to pass this big, beautiful bill, and that's their main focus. But they're going to have to get on these other things rapidly, or it's not going to happen.
Well, the Democrats don't want the people to leave.
Exactly.
Because as far as they're concerned, they're future voters.
Right.
They are presently constituents, and they openly say that.
Yeah, that's their plan. Yeah. So let me ask this question about let you guys chime in here a little bit. I was watching, and it's to that point that Zack brings up. They don't want them to leave. I was watching a video today. There was a criminal, illegal alien woman. She had assaulted a pregnant woman some time ago and was charged with it and convicted of it. And she's in the country. And ICE went after her today in a neighborhood in Worcester, Massachusetts. And somehow this city councilwoman got wind of what, and she was there trying to interfere with ICE of arresting this woman. And now she's in big trouble with the Worcester police and ICE because she was pushing and shoving everybody. And but what in the world is going on when these people fight so hard for these criminals and these people that aren't supposed to be in the country? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's kind of like doubling down on men and women's sport. It's a losing proposition, but they keep doing it.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't make sense.
They keep digging the hole and it keeps getting deeper.
Hey, guys, I'm going to have to run, but I did want to make one more point.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Look, I want to preface it by saying I love what Trump's doing. He's pushing on all sides. I do not want to be the Monday morning quarterbacker, but I also want to speak out when I feel strongly about something.
Sure.
So I hate to be the guy wanting to rein in, but again, my loyalties to the Constitution, what I
Of
think is
course.
best for the
Yeah.
country. So, and this is why it's important that we do have leaders that have some knowledge of the Constitution and American history. I mean, the fact that Trump is considering or really doesn't understand why one should not accept a Boeing Air Force One from Qatar is troubling me.
Yeah.
Now if Congress wants to approve it, that's fine. And this is where Hamilton and Federalist 22 goes over the emoluments clause, saying in our form of government, we have to be careful lest we are influenced more than we need to be by foreign governments and we become corrupt.
Right.
Because nobody can tell me that a big jumbo jet like that won't affect foreign policy thinking at least a little bit, or have somebody hesitate or double quick and these kind of things. It is not legal as per the Constitution unless Congress votes to accept it. But those rules are so stringent that I have military friends that were given gifts, this, that, and the other, and couldn't accept them. You have presidents that were giving way smaller gifts that had to be left and then auctioned off. And the fact that even Trump thought that he could put that in his library afterwards is absolutely ridiculous. It is not your plane. Even if Congress accepts it, it would go to the next president. It doesn't go to your presidential library. It is not your plane. And so things like that, look, we've got to, I feel like I'm the, at the bowling alley, the little bumper things there for the kids, not that Trump is a kid, he's not, and he's going to push. But from a business mindset, it's like, hey, that's stupid. Why wouldn't we take that?
Yeah.
Somebody wants to give you $500 million, you take it. Well, that's not the way it works. That's not what the founders wanted to do. And we have a history of rejecting gifts like that.
Now, a couple of points I want to make is they're going to give the plane to the Defense Department, not to Trump. So,
Right.
And number two is UAE gave a $17 million helicopter to Bill Clinton.
Yeah, well.
Did you ever hear anything about that?
I didn't. I didn't even know that. But did Congress approve it?
I didn't hear that they did.
Yeah, and if they didn't, that's completely illegal.
Yeah.
It is totally illegal.
Yeah,
I mean, we're either going to try to follow the Constitution or we're not.
that's right. Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm looking historically, where am I wrong? It's like, come on, people.
No, you're right. You give it to
mean,
the Defense Department, and then Congress accepts it and says it's okay, and we move on. Right?
Yeah, if Congress approves it, that's fine.
Sure.
But it can't be unilaterally done, and we have to weigh the risks of doing it.
And it's all only come up because Boeing, Trump had a contract with Boeing to finish their Air Force Ones that they were building in his first term, and they still haven't finished. They still haven't delivered.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm
It
thinking
won't
this is part of the.
won't be finished during this 4-year term.
Right. Won't be finished during this 4 years. Yeah. So
I'm just wondering if this is part of Trump's part of the deal thing, like the tariffs.
of course it is.
Could be.
Throw it against the wall and watch who makes it stick or not.
Yeah. Well, he's had such a, the weekend that he's had, which it's been going on since last Thursday. I mean, everything that's happened, beginning with the China talks and on into the rest of the week and going over to Saudi Arabia. I mean,
it's a lot.
They are just swamped with.
It's a lot.
They don't know what to fight about. So
that's why
the
I
only thing in their
hesitate.
book right now is the airplane, right? Fight against the airplane.
I hesitate to even comment, but I didn't like the fact that the Clintons had a foundation and it's collapsed now that they're out of power. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody knows what that was,
Sure.
that Hunter Biden was collecting money. It is
Yeah.
fraud.
USAID, baby.
It is fraud. And I didn't like it on them, and I don't like it on when we're even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with that, I'm out. I appreciate you guys.
Okay. Have a safe flight, Jeff. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming on.
Okay, Jeff.
Appreciate your time.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, guys. So any comments? What do you think?
Well, I actually was about the airplane thing. I don't even think it's a real good idea, not because of the emoluments clause, but just the cost of making sure that somebody hasn't put explosive bolts in the wings,
Or anything else, right?
or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the upgrade that it's going to take to bring that airplane up to Air Force One standards, which is it's a flying command post.
Yeah. A lot of electronics have to go into it.
Right.
Yeah.
So the airplane's probably not even going to be ready by the time Trump finishes his first or his second term before he takes off on his third one. It might be good for his third term, but but seriously, I just think that Boeing, I don't know what's going on at Boeing. Man, I'm glad we didn't do this during the war. We'd have 7 B-17s over Germany right now.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have the B-29s.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, I comments, Ken. What do you think?
Oh, I pretty much agree with what Jeff was saying, both on the plane and on the habeas corpus. Both are playing with fire, and but I tend to agree with you and Paul that I think this is Trump's art of the deal type maneuvers, and sometimes he's throwing stuff against the wall, and some of it will stick and some of it won't, and he doesn't think much about the stuff that doesn't stick. While there's a lot of people that get all wrapped around the axle, sometimes, as we should, because if you're playing with the Constitution, that's just think if how we would be reacting 4 years ago if a Democrat president had formally stated that he was suspending habeas corpus after the January 6th thing, because the word rebellion is also in there with invasion. I mean, we can correctly say that we have been invaded, but the word rebellion is a pretty broad word if you start suspending habeas corpus based on one or the other. And
well, basically, without saying it, they did suspend habeas corpus for the January 6th.
And we went bananas, as we should have.
Oh yeah,
because they should not.
Yeah, so a lot of them spent 2 or 3 years in jail.
Exactly.
Without even going in front of a judge. Yeah.
And we didn't like that.
Nope.
So, but Trump's approach is say something, even if you're not serious about it, just kind of. Sometimes I think it's a diversion. Sometimes I think it's, throwing stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. The Democrats usually do what they are accusing us of doing. They just don't admit that they were doing it in the first place.
Right. Oh, no, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So where are we doing with time here?
We're 45 minutes.
45 minutes? Okay. All right. We've been recording for about 30 minutes on.
Oh, is that all?
Well, I recorded the early part on Zoom, so I'm going to have to do some splicing or something to get this.
Oh, splicing. Okay.
Yeah. So alrighty. I got to drop them all into my video editor and see if it works. But
okay.
Don't splice it like 60 Minutes did.
Put in different words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put in what you really said. I promise.
Okay.
So Zack, are you still there, Zack?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask you, really, Congress can't clarify due process in the immigration courts because it's already defined, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's there. It's just
it is what they gave them when they passed the Immigration and Nationality Act.
Right. And why doesn't, I don't understand why doesn't somebody stand up and say, and I'm talking about Roberts or the Supreme Court or the group, I guess there's some group of judges that the Roberts oversees, like a panel or something that oversees all the courts in the country. Why don't they just come up and say, listen, you have no jurisdiction in these immigration cases, stop, All that stuff is null and void. I don't know why they just don't do that. Why do they want this stuff to perpetuate unless they have some other ulterior motive?
I think you just hit the nail on the head.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to believe that.
I think
Yeah.
the courts are corrupted. I'll just leave it at that.
Man, I'm telling you, it's so frustrating because talking to you over the years, Zach, and knowing about immigration law, and it's there. There's the due process is there. If you're a criminal alien, if you came over the border, you're in the hopper, and if they catch you, you're gone.
Well,
And
it's just like the really big issues, and the Episcopal Church just pointed this out, that they're not interested in representing refugees that are Caucasoids. They don't think the South African farmers and ranchers were being persecuted. I spent quite a bit of time in 2006 in South Africa.
yeah,
And those people down there, it was terrible then. I can only imagine what it's like now.
yeah, it's horrible.
But if you drive down the road from Johannesburg, to the Zimbabwe border, all of the native land doesn't even have a blade of grass on it.
Wow.
It's clean.
Mm.
You'll come to a fence, and on the other side of the fence, there's trees, there's wildlife, there's everything. It looks just like you would think Africa would look like.
Yeah. So they turned it
You
into a
pass
desert.
What they turned over to the indigenous people are not stewards of the land, they're consumers of the land.
Right. They don't know how to take care of it. Yeah.
And they're taking, so they've destroyed the land they were given. So now they're taking it away from the farmers that are stewards of the ground.
Yeah.
And so it's going to end up like
One big desert. No food.
right.
I guess they don't like to eat very much. I don't know.
Well, I remember, of course, I was with medical people down there, doctors, and they were telling me that the native population makes no difference between a nose cold and HIV.
Wow.
And then like 80% of the population is HIV positive,
Mhm.
the native population.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when they know they've got HIV, they still don't use sexual protection.
Oh, goodness. And I heard something today, too, that I didn't know that, that's where Elon Musk is South African, right?
Yeah, he is.
And they won't let him put Starlink in South Africa because he's white.
No, because he's going to tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
He has a bad habit of that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, we need more of that, though, right? So,
Well, yeah.
so what are we going to do? What? I don't see Congress doing. Oh, I want to tell you guys something, and before we get off here, there's a lot of stuff going around on social media about they're not going to put in the bill, the big beautiful bill. You guys know about the big beautiful bill, right? They're not going to put in there that Social Security is going to be exempt from taxes. Okay. And everybody's up in arms about that. Oh, you lied to us. You said you were not going to tax Social Security, and people are going crazy now. So the truth be told is there's a law, the Senate, and there's a law that says that Social Security cannot be changed in a reciprocity bill. So they can't exempt Social Security from taxes. What they can do now is they're going to offer a $4,000 credit or whatever I don't know what they're going to call it, but they're got something to do with $4,000 and exemption or credit or something. And when you file your taxes, you can write off that $4K right away. So to make up for it. So, which sounds like a good plan. So kind of help everybody get the truth out there because people are all up in arms about this Social Security.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, Zach.
If there is no more IRS, who's going to tax Social Security?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah.
Who's suggesting that there won't be an IRS?
Well, they're talking about,
I'm asking you a perspective question.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of, there's been talk with the Doge people about what is it called? The Internal Revenue Service and the External Revenue Service.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better.
You're home.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mrs. A.